have been some major shakeups at the BiggerPockets podcast this week. Both David Green and Rob Abasolo are out as the hosts, and David Myers is in.
So first and foremost, I am going to be the host of the BiggerPockets Real Estate Podcast going forward.
But why? Why the change?
Everybody got let go. Everybody.
Heads were rolling. That is part of what happens when private equity buys a company, loses its soul.
You're firing me and you're replacing me with Henry Washington. And then she's like, I'm telling you, Rob, right now, that is not happening. It's literally exactly what happened. From a business standpoint, I actually kind of get it. Do I think that cutting their star talent was a good move? I think that is an objectively bad business decision.
I think he said, hey, I can make this good for me. I can get David Green out of the equation.
I've got some tea that I want to confront you about. It's been a year and a half. If we're doing this, I may as well put it out there. You look nervous. All right, I've got a couple of questions, I think, to start off this podcast, and feel free to pass if you don't want to answer them. Okay, question number one. Who does BiggerPockets think they are?
Oh, I feel like I'm on between two ferns right now. I'll pass.
Okay. All right. Question number two. What gives BiggerPockets the right?
You are a Zach Galifianakis. I think I butchered his name.
Okay.
I take the fifth. I don't know.
You're gonna pass.
Yeah.
I knew you would. Okay, well, everybody, welcome to today's episode of BiggerPockets. It has been 1 year. It has been just over 1 year since David and I got axed from the BiggerPockets podcast, and I want to talk about it today. I think it's been enough time where we can actually make a video. I mean, BiggerPockets. I'm just kidding. We're in good places, but I think we've probably refrained from making this podcast because we wanted to play nice. Like we still care about some of the people and the hosts at that network. We didn't want to seem too bitter, so we thought we'd let it air out a little bit. And now we're kind of in our revenge era, and we're going to spill all the tea.
Yeah, I've got green tea. He's got built tea.
Brown tea?
I was going to say that, but I realized I can't say that.
I know. I was
you can
waiting
say
to
it.
Cancel you.
Thank you very much.
Canceled.
Okay,
so it's been a year and a half. A year, 2 months, 3 months. I don't know, something like that. How's it been? How's it been leaving BiggerPockets? Like what has happened to your life in this kind of 12 to 14 month period?
That's a great question, man. Well, the real estate market hasn't been doing so great. It's been challenging from that perspective. Just interest rates going high, transactions going down, kind of the excitement and fervor that was surrounding real estate has tailored off quite a bit. Those of us that love it, we still love it, but I don't think it's as popular as it was when it was like everybody was jumping into it. I ended up letting the David Green team go and starting a new venture. So I'm doing Coast to Coast Real Estate now. That's my real estate brokerage where we're looking for brokers in different states and then hiring agents in the areas where we have them. I got a little bit into your game where I started short-term rental property management. So I've got Coast to Coast Getaways. That's my management game. I put out a book that's Better Than Cash Flow, the 10 Ways You Make Money in Real Estate. And I have just been soldiering on. The one brokerage is still doing great. We're still closing loans, but it's been tricky having to figure out how to get content made. BiggerPockets sure made that easy when we just showed up and recorded, and the next thing you know, this beautiful cake was baked and presented. So I've sort of been covered in flour and wearing my apron and trying to figure out how to bake cakes.
Yeah, so I guess here's what I want to talk about today. I mean, I want to talk about what happened, what led to, I think, the great axing, if you will. Because you mentioned that real estate is not doing super great right now, although, I mean, I think many of us would probably say it's on the up and up. I think that plays into a lot of what happened at BiggerPockets. I think real estate was very rough, and companies that made their money from real estate being on the up and up were hurt from the standpoint of the bottom line. And so I think BiggerPockets is one of those companies, along with many companies. It's not just BiggerPockets, but at the end of the day, I think that's financially speaking, it was a good move to cut us. Can you speak on that, or you want to play nice?
No, well, we don't know. That's the thing. That a lot of people asked us what happened, and you and I were sort of just as confused as everyone else was. We don't know what happened. We don't know why it happened. We weren't told. It didn't really make any sense to us. We had to guess like everybody else had to guess. So what we're talking about today is just speculation. We don't know. But I think it's safe to assume that when real estate is not crushing it and people are not spending a lot of money on real estate and investing education, they got to make cuts somewhere. And you and I were probably the biggest, fattest, juiciest cut to make right off the bat. We were sort of
I think we were expensive talent. I think it's kind of what it came down
that's
to.
a much nicer way to say it. Yes, that's exactly what that was. And it was the easiest move to make. And that's sort of supported by the person we were replaced with was someone that's an employee. So they didn't have to take on any additional salaries when they replaced us, and they were able to cut immediately quite a bit of income that they had to spend, or income,
Fairly
expenses from them, right? They cut it off. It would be income to us, and kind of transition without a whole lot of rockiness because they didn't need to bring a new person in to represent the brand. Dave was already working with the company. He'd been there for a long time. And this is coming from.
What are you doing, man?
Don't everyone knows who the new podcast host is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Now you made me forget exactly where I was going with that.
I'm sorry.
You're
Well, that's how we do it on the Robcast on BiggerPockets. All right. You know what? I want to talk about that, but why don't we go back to the beginning just a hair, because I think this probably came. I think a lot of people don't understand what BiggerPockets was. I don't think they understand where it kind of netted out. So initially, BiggerPockets was owned by a guy named Josh Dorkin. And then at some point, he started a podcast with Brandon. Brandon became an owner. And then, if I remember this correctly, this is lore. I don't know too much, but I know you know. But Josh Dorkin ended up selling BiggerPockets to private equity, if I remember correctly. And that was kind of like the first big change. In doing so, I believe Brandon kind of retained like a piece of that, and he kind of became Josh Dorkin retired, and then Brandon took over. And that's kind of whenever you stepped into the picture. Did I miss any of the details there?
I don't think Brandon's ownership played a role, and I can't confirm that happened. I don't think that it was Josh to Brandon to private equity.
Sure,
I think it was Josh to private equity. Brandon got sucked up into that transition. He brought me in to replace Josh. The podcast took off and did incredible, but it was never Brandon's company. I think that probably had a lot more to do with why Brandon ended up wanting to go do his own thing.
True. You know what? You're right. Because I see those clips on like the iced coffee hour. They're always viral on YouTube. And they're like, why'd you leave BiggerPockets? He's like, because I didn't own it. He's like, no, I'm just kidding. But seriously, that's why. Okay. So yes, you're right. Moral of the story though, is it was owned by Josh. Brandon's kind of like the golden child of BiggerPockets. He was like the face of it. It gets sold to private equity. There seems to be a shift, but for the most part, I never knew BiggerPockets with Josh Dorkin. I really only knew it at the Dave and Brandon era. But Brandon leaves, I step into the role.
Yep.
And we're kind of doing this thing. I mean, there's always mandates and things that are kind of being dictated by the overlords. But sort of towards the end of our tenure, it got sold again to private equity.
Yeah, and I think that's all public information. That's absolutely true. And it's relevant because we're trying to figure out why we were replaced. So if new ownership comes in, just like every time we buy a house, right? You come in and you're like, oh my God, I can't stand the way that decorations are. I'm going to put my stamp on it. I'm going to change it. I think people do that when they run companies as well.
Yeah. I've bought, one or two companies, and I've merged in some of my companies with other people. And so, the first thing that you talk about when you buy a company is like, where can the team that I already pay come into play, and who can I cut from the team that was there to save costs and bring my superstars into the mix? So from a business standpoint, I actually kind of get it that private equity is coming in and they're buying up, the company, and they want to save costs. Do I think that cutting their star talent was a good move? No, I think that is an objectively bad business decision. I see you smiling there because you're like, next question.
Well, because
Move
we happen
on.
to be that star talent. So
That's right.
there is
Oh,
an
because I
element
called
of
myself star
subjectivity in this. Yes, that's a Brandon move right there. That's exactly. He's the master
I was
at.
born to shine, David. Well, I do think that it is I mean, objectively speaking, regardless of that, like, you don't want to come in swinging and fire your main people.
Yeah, if
And
somebody
it was
buys
never like,
Disney, you don't want to get rid of Mickey Mouse. Maybe
that's right.
Maybe you get rid of Pluto.
Who's Mickey?
Yeah.
Me? Who's Mickey and Minnie? I guess
Let's go with Mickey and Donald. You're clearly funnier, so I'll let you be Donald. And you're not wearing pants. People might not know that, but when Rob records, he doesn't.
That's
wear
true.
pants.
That is my one rule. If I do podcast, no pants.
Yeah, sin
No
pantalones.
Sin pantalones. That's right. Bigger pantalones is actually the name of this podcast. Okay, so I think that's kind of like, I want to talk about that a little bit because I understand from a business standpoint, you come in and you want to clean up shop, you want to clean up expenses. Boom, I get that. I think the other really big kind of reading between the lines, because we don't know this is speculation, but I feel pretty good about some of our theories, but I don't know. This is an opinion, right? But like, I think BiggerPockets was purchased at an all-time high for like valuation wise, really great time in the market. And I think very shortly thereafter was sort of the nosedive of like basically real estate. Interest rates started going up. People were way less bullish on real estate as an asset class. People were scared. They're like, I'm not going to invest. I'm going to wait. Meanwhile, we're kind of having to like, I don't know, profess the same level of optimism in a way, which I think we are genuinely optimistic. But I did feel like there was a weird, I don't know. We had to communicate certain ways. I think we weren't really able to be like, not doom and gloom, but maybe
we weren't able to be ourselves. That's fair to say. When Brandon and I were making the show, there was whatever we wanted to talk about and one editor. By the end with you and I, there was more production staff than there were hosts, and we were told the questions that we were going to ask and the direction that the show was going to go. Yep. And there were people watching it to make sure that it followed the path that the storyteller wanted it to follow. So
correct.
That made it very difficult for you and I. It was almost like if you're trying to, succeed in a sport, I'm about to use an analogy here, and your coach is telling you what play to run, what steps to take, what to do. Even if you're looking at the defense and you're like, this is not the right play to make. If you don't make it, they're going to take you off the field. So I think that was a source of frustration for you and I, surely, because our message was more of caution at this time. We're not bad about real estate, but we definitely wanted to advise people differently than what they believed was going to get clicks. And I mean, in hindsight, I think that did create some tension between staff there and us having very different visions for the ways that the conversation should go.
I do want to clarify. We weren't saying untrue things, or we weren't like kind of shielding our thoughts. It was more like when we went off script to share our true thoughts on the subjects that were kind of being handed to us. That's whenever we would have all these meetings afterwards, and they'd be like, hey, you guys are really going off script. Like, maybe don't say that, maybe do this. And then we'd be like, well, I mean, we feel pretty authentic saying it this way. And they'd be like, yeah, just stick to the script. And we were like, okay, sure. Also, I think you and I probably would have chosen different topics. We probably would have talked a little bit more about what was happening on the market. And I think we were being kind of prodded or like guided to talk about house hacking, which is a great strategy. I think you and I, we love house hacking like a lot, but every episode was like, yeah, oh, you don't know how to start? House hack. And it's like,
okay, Rob, let's say that I say to you, I need a strategy for someone that has hardly any money at all, can't afford a very expensive house, doesn't have a rehab budget, can't run a short-term rental, and they're buying their very first property. What would you recommend they do? How many answers to that question are there?
Not a lot. House hack.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it. And that is absolutely the number one way that I would continue to recommend it. It's just like every episode, and it's like, and then I'd be like, hey, what about creative finance? Like, this is like a legitimate strategy that people could use, and they'd be like, never. It's of the devil. And so it was just like, we weren't really allowed to explore things, we weren't allowed to, we were dogs on a leash.
Yeah, in a sense, because I think,
Yeah.
and again, we're speculating, but if you're run by private equity, you have key performance indicators that you're trying to hit. And you've got this very production heavy approach where there's a ton of salaries on the books here. They have to hit a certain amount of clicks, a certain amount of views, and sell a certain amount of
Advertising
ads.
pays the bills.
That's it. And there's a lot of bills to pay. So if I want to make a show about, let's explain to people how to read an inspection report, but they think no one's clicking on that. What they want to hear is an inspirational story about how to make $1 bazillion starting with 17 cents. Then that's the show that they're going to make. And that's why we just got stuck in the house hacking loop, because there's only so many ways you could answer the question of how do we make content that would apply to everybody, even if they've got no money, no skills, no knowledge. And the content that we wanted to make maybe wouldn't have been as what's the word you're looking for? It's not going to go viral to say, here's a podcast about how to read a roof report and how to get a good deal on a roof. But my heart was, I want to protect our listeners. I'm not necessarily trying to go viral with every clip. I'd rather protect the reputation of the company. And to be fair, we don't even know if the company knew about some of this. Like, this could have just been the production staff butting heads with us, and it might not have even made it up to the top. What probably made it up to the top was David and Rob aren't following the script.
Maybe. And I think, I had this chip on my shoulder with production because basically towards the end, we had a producer come in and they basically mandated everything, and they got a promotion and they were sort of head of production for everybody. And so I kind of thought they had it out for us a little bit, just because I was like, oh, I get it. You're the producer. You want to do everything. You want to mandate everything. Well, they got let go. Everybody got let go.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It wasn't just you and me. We were the public ones, but heads were rolling. The streets were flooded with blood. It was a massacre.
And that's why I think there's more to this story than the audience was probably led on to believe, because literally everybody, dude, all of our bosses, all of our producers, the CEO,
editors, marketing people. Yeah.
Dude, and everyone's reaching out to us like, hey, we got let go. Can we work for you? Do you have a job? And we're like, man, sorry. Like we got nothing, man. We got let go too. So I think it probably was a little bit of that production. I think maybe some of that narrative that you're talking about. I don't think we were really divas. I really feel like a team player. So it was out of nowhere that they were just kind of, I don't know, some of the things that we were told. And then even the person that fired us and cut us is no longer there. She didn't get fired. She quit, I'm told. I don't know. So everybody is gone. BiggerPockets has cleaned house. And all of the host network, they're still there. Like the actual talent, they're there. So they're there. I love all of them. They're good people.
The part you would see when you look from the outside is all still there. Yeah.
But looking in, that it's not the same organization. And so production is gone. Main talent is gone. CEO, Scott, who was the CEO of BiggerPockets for a long time, stepped down. I don't know. I'm sure he did, maybe. And then got replaced by another CEO. How's that CEO doing?
That CEO is not there anymore either.
It's been 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So
bit of a CEO.
A CEO, daddy. So I think I'm a little nervous about the landscape there, because I think that real estate, again, I do think it's on the up and up, but I think it's a different company than when we were there.
Oh, I can vouch for that. It's transitioned several times through several ownerships. And just like when somebody else buys a property, they put their own mark on it. When someone buys a company, they put their own mark on it. It behind the scenes is nothing like what it was. Like I give you the example, and it was me and Brandon. It was us and one virtual assistant editor. And the show was what we thought it should be. The questions were what we thought it should be. The people we interviewed are what we thought who we should interview, and the direction took the direction we thought it should go. It was very restricted by the time that you and I came around, and we weren't told anything. So we're forced to speculate, like everybody is forced to speculate, but I think it's very safe to say that whatever BiggerPockets was is not the same that BiggerPockets is.
I agree. But with that said, the host, like Dave Meyer, took over. He's honestly probably running the place at this point. I don't know if they have a new CEO. He's a great guy. Super nice. Henry Washington, Great dude. Very nice. All the hosts, great people. Like they all did. Like I remember when we were getting cut and I was having that conversation with higher up and I'm like, you're firing me and you're replacing me with Henry Washington. And then she's like, I'm telling you, Rob, right now, that is not happening. Cut to 3 weeks, 3 weeks later, it's literally exactly what happened. So from my standpoint, I'm just kind of like, I listen in every so often because I want to support my friends. But man, I think that there's an opportunity. What I'd like to see more of, and what I see more on the landscape is, I think it's a good time to maybe kind of like go back to basics a little bit, and I think that's what they're trying to do. Really kind of going back, like who's killing it right now in the real estate space? Coach Chad Carson. I don't know if you know him, but his whole thing is like the small and mighty investor. Mm-hmm. And that's his thing, man. And he's kind of like the new age BiggerPockets to me. He's killing it. His audience loves what he's doing. He's talking fundamentals, basics. He doesn't talk about house hacking like every single episode. And so I kind of think that there is an appetite to go back to that. They're just slightly less inspirational stories than like, I was 17 and I lived in a trailer and went homeless and now I'm a billionaire.
Well, people catch different waves. So when Brandon and I first started, nobody knew about this at all. And it was like, you're crazy. You can make money buying houses. You can buy a lot of them. There's ways to do it. They wanted to listen to something they'd never heard. And then when the market was doing really good, people wanted to scale. So Burr was really, really attractive. Like, you don't need a ton of money. You can use the same money and you can keep recycling it. And then the market got like really hot and you couldn't really make deals work anymore. And then Pace Morby had his moment because he's talking about creative financing when you kind of need that to be able to make something work. And so he caught a big wave.
He's still having a big moment, man.
I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's as popular as he was when creative finance was the only way to make it work. Now that everything is kind of contracted, that's Chad's space. He's the small and mighty, right? If it went gangbusters again, Chad would be less popular. Not like he's not popular. He would not be as popular. It would not be his wave because everybody wants to scale. So you have to think about all these different strategies people talk about are more attractive at different times in the market cycle, depending on where the opportunity was. You caught a massive wave when short-term rentals were new, right? Yeah. Like now everybody talks about short-term rentals, or now short-term rentals you can mess up a lot more. So your wave is not as powerful as it was at one point. And you just have to realize this. As the market goes through different periods, different strategies will be shot to the top, and that's what everybody's going to hear. And then when the sort of tide recedes, different people are going to be popular in those. So I think this is a market perfect for Chad's conservative approach because everyone we know is losing money. So the guy who's teaching you how to not lose money is going to look really good.
Well, and it still works, man. I do think there are all of these niches. I'm not going to say like get rich quick, because like I don't think Airbnbs get rich quick, and creative finance, and I don't think that's a get rich quick thing, or wholesaling. Well, that it tends to be a little bit more on the get rich quick side. But like I think all these niches are like legitimate niches, but I do think that like back to basics, real estate 101, buy one rental at a time, like build up your portfolio very slowly. I think that always works no matter what. You may not cash flow a lot, but I do think that there's a way forward there. And so like, I think no matter what interest rates are, you can be successful in that specific niche. So I respect it. I would like to see more of that. Kind of coming from BiggerPockets. I think that would be like my constructive feedback, because everybody still knows the name. Everyone still knows the brand. A lot of people come up to me and remember me from BiggerPockets and like have fond memories of BiggerPockets. So like, I think that the attitude and the sentiment is still there. And I think the brand can definitely be saved or salvaged or kind of like, propped up still. But I don't know if I'm seeing it right now at this time.
I don't know where it is happening. It's going to be the small and mighty crowd that's going to be doing well. This is their moment right now, because when everybody is getting hammered, defense looks really attractive. Does it work when the market's great? Of course it does, but it's not as appealing. And that's kind of what's tricky about real estate is there's so many voices right now. There's so many strategies. Most of it is not coming from a benevolent place. It's coming from, I want the clicks, the views. I want the wave. I want to catch the wave. How do I get everyone to listen to me?
You're talking to a YouTuber, man. I get it.
But everyone is. They're YouTubers. They're on social media. It's not as much about the content. It's more about the attention. And so you have a lot of people in our space that aren't focusing on excellence within our craft. They're more focused on excellence within marketing. Now, that doesn't mean everyone. You can't label everyone with that brush. But my point is, it's confusing for the listener to try to figure out, who am I supposed to look at? And so there's always a new person. There's always a new thing. There's always another person shooting to the top of the algorithm that catches that wave. And it can be confusing. And BiggerPockets kind of has to figure out how they're going to navigate this without their fundamental people that were kicked out.
You know what really was like the life-changing thing about what you and Brandon did? And we had a few of these during my tenure as well, but it's just like you guys interviewed just random people, and that was it. And you took random people who had awesome stories, and you like told those stories. And I don't say random in a bad way. I say it in a good way. Like everyday people that actually scaled a really great portfolio. And man, you would just tell these stories of a guy that's like, I don't know, a plumber, and he like figured out, he traded his services for a house, and he like used that to get into a second and third. And those are the stories that I really like. Those are life-changing stories, because the majority of BiggerPockets, the audience, that's them, right? And they just want that. And you were like, built up your real estate portfolio, working your 9 to 5, you would work overtime to make more money. And I think like that's what people related to. We got into this era, and I got to be a little careful with how I say this, because I'm one of them, but we got into this era of like, I get there and literally everybody was a coach. Like every single person.
Some of them have like 2 properties, and they're making posts telling you how you can do what they did.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm a coach. That's what I'm saying. Like there's some of us that are good. Like there are people that I'll vouch for that I very much believe in, that I'm like, that's a good coach. But everyone else, they would either become a coach after being on BiggerPockets, or they came in like kind of in the infancy of it. And I think that's where we started losing some of those really authentic stories.
Massively. Yes, that's exactly right. If you think about someone trying to run a successful college football program, there's the coaching element. How do we win the game? And then there's the recruiting element. How do I sell you on why you should come to my school? And the recruiters are the first person that you see, and it's very easy for them to tell you something that they can't back up. Once you're signed up with the school and you never play, or the team sucks or whatever, a lot of real estate investors kind of got into that trap where they got sold by someone claiming to be a coach. They didn't know how to vet if they were or they weren't. These people were everywhere. And then you lose credibility, and you don't hear those stories anymore. You hear the bombastic stories of the 25-year-old that has 14,000 units all themselves, and they're sort of, I don't know, like marketing themselves instead of their knowledge and their experience. And then you get saturated with all of these different things to listen to. You don't know who to listen to, and it did sort of corrupt the whole space. In my opinion, I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah. And I say this because I have much criticism to the coaching niche. I mean, especially Airbnb coaches. My least favorite coaches. That's probably true. I'm gonna say there's probably other coaches that I don't like as much, but I think the Airbnb coaches bother me the most, truthfully. We didn't have really, I don't think we interviewed really that many, but like in general, like I know the truth. And so when we have, like, I know what it, and you do too, like we know what it takes to run a rental business. And so when we hear the coaches kind of like tell stories a certain way, we're kind of like, and we might like double down and ask them a question, be like, wait, what do you mean by this? And then we'd be like, okay. So it was always it was more like you were interviewing a very like polished PR person sometimes. And so I guess I say all that just to say we kind of weirdly got like a little bit of the blame for that. Like they didn't, BP, it wasn't like Rob and David brought on all these coaches, but when they fired us, they were like, we're firing them in an effort to bring more authentic stories, no more coaches. We don't want to interview any more coaches and this and that. And it kind of just, I know that they didn't mean it this way, but it made it look like you and I were just like picking coaches to like interview.
I don't think we hardly ever pick people to interview at all.
Yeah. We had no sourcing, I guess, autonomy there. Like we didn't get to actually choose the talent. So that was another thing where I was like, and then BP also doesn't like coaching either. And so that was like a big thing when they let me go. They're like, yeah, we just don't like, we don't want our staff or like our hosts to have coaching programs. Literally, they all do. Every single one except for like, I think Dave. I think
because he's a W-2 employee with the company,
Right.
I believe, so he has to follow that. But the other ones have coaching programs. You're right.
Right.
That's why I never started one. One of the reasons why I never did I never was allowed to. That was contractually prohibited. You cannot have all these things. These are the things you can't say on the show. These are the things you can't do outside the show. This is the image that we want to maintain. It was like I was basically Tom Cruise's girlfriend, right? The Scientologists come in, they're like, hey, we're picking you for Tom Cruise. This is what you have to wear. This is how you have to act.
Okay.
We want to keep the image really, really clean. And I didn't mind it because I was so in love with BP. That was like my identity was them, right? We were on the same team. And I was Mickey Mouse and that was Disneyland. And I was happy to wear whatever costume they wanted me to wear and let the little kids pull on my tail when that comes. I mean, how exhausting scale of 1 out of 10 was BPCon for you when we were hosting the show and you would show up?
Oh, 10 out of 10. But
insane.
Yeah, I loved it though.
We love it, but we weren't paid for that. We didn't get anything for
never.
ourselves. There was no like, hey, we're working our butts off and they're going to pay us to build the brand. That was just all out of the goodness of your soul and loyalty to the company and the brand and the spirit of what Josh had started. So that's probably where
Yeah,
some
we had
of
to
it,
ask for ticket. Hey, can I get an extra ticket for my editor? And they're like, ooh, yeah, I suppose. And I'm always like, okay, I guess.
yeah, I just went and had to buy tickets. I had to buy them. Like, doesn't matter what happened before.
You went to BPCon. That blew my mind because you were like, yeah, I'm going to go. And then I was like, are you buying tickets with your own money? And you're like, yeah.
Two
And
of
I was
them.
like, that's crazy talk.
I know. Do you want to talk about that? Just why you didn't go to BPCon? And
Sure.
you weren't too happy that I went. I was picking up in the tone. You're like, what? Why would you?
Well,
do
I
that?
was annoyed that you paid for tickets. I would have gone. Like I would have gone if they were like, hey, like, you know, come say hi. Like we'll give you tickets because like, I don't know who, Avery or somebody. I'm friends with Avery, so no shade. But she one time I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to include this. Maybe we'll cut this. But she was like, yeah. Every year they give me like 5 or 6 tickets. Like I never have to like get tickets or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's cool. This was like back when I was a host. I was like, nice, good for you. Like, of course, you're such a big part of this network and this and that. And like, I'm like, I didn't even get a ticket. You didn't even get a ticket, dude. They no.
But see, here's
I'm not paying
here's
for
where
it.
I don't want to say defend BP, but I want to bring some clarity in the spirit of fairness.
Okay.
They is a whole lot of different people. Okay. So whoever is in charge of tickets may have viewed you and I differently than they viewed Avery. There could have been other people at BP that were huge fans of us and supportive of us and were wonderful. Right. So when you have private equity that buys a company, they sort of becomes vague. You don't know who they are. When it was Josh's company, Josh was saying, I want David to do this. I want Brandon to do that.
Sure.
This is right. When it gets to be this big, this can happen, right? Like if somebody got a loan with the one brokerage and they got terrible service, I wouldn't want someone saying David stiffed me because I've got like 80 loan officers. So somebody could do something stupid that I wouldn't condone. That is part of what happens when private equity buys a company, loses its soul, is this stuff can happen where another person can get 5 or 6 tickets and then your workhorses just aren't as popular with whoever is in charge of giving away the tickets. Or that person's like, well, I don't really care about Dave and Rob. They don't help me with my job, but this person does. So I'm going to take care of them. And it is easy to get caught up in that shuffle. But for what you're saying objectively, yes, like it's not like we were being wined and dined over there.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm really not that salty about it. I'm just like, I'm not gonna spend $1,000 to go. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And then the flights and then my hotel. So that's really what it was. I was just like, it's offensive to have to, and I know, let me just say, I know I could have shaken some trees and gotten tickets. Like Jesse Vasquez had a few extra tickets and he's like, hey man, I got extra tickets. Like you can, if you really want to go.
Is that wild though? That Jesse Vasquez, who's barely affiliated with them at all, got tickets and we didn't.
He didn't get it from BP. He got it from somewhere else. Yeah. But then someone else, I'm not going to name names. Another host was like, because I did an AMA and a lot of people were like, are you going to BPCon? I was like, no. And then was like, what? Why? And I was like, I didn't get invited. And so one of the hosts reached out and was like, oh my God, what? That's like totally an accident. She's like, I can go straight to blah, blah, blah and get you a ticket. I'll go do that right now. And I was like, no, it's not about the free ticket. It's about my rights. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
You wanted to be invited. You wanted to be wanted.
I wanted them to want me there.
The salt in the wound is when I hear criticism from the people that did go and pay about the quality of presenters. And they're like, why aren't you speaking? It's like, well, I wasn't asked to speak. And the people that go feel like they didn't get a lot of value because the speakers that were there weren't as knowledgeable or weren't as good at speaking or whatever the case was. And I know I would have crushed it. You know, you would have crushed it. We know that like the people who did pay would have wanted to see us there. And then for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. And I think that's where the speculation comes in. Like, why did it go down this way? It does not make any sense.
It's odd. They would never let me speak. I mean, I was a host for 2.5. I think I went to 3 BP cons, Orlando, Mexico. Maybe that was it. In both times, I'm like, I'm the host, I'm the co-host. And I'm like, hey, and I was like, can I speak? And they're like, yeah, we'll put you in one of the side room A, half of room A at the same time as like so-and-so doing their presentation. And I'd be like, well, can I just keynote? Because like, I've got pretty good content and I am the co-host. I think people would like to see me present. And they're like, yeah, sorry, it's not really how it works. We do this and that. And I know like you got to keynote that first year, but I think it was always
no, bro. That was like my 4th year before that ever happened. They were always doing the same thing to me. It was always, let's take someone way in the bottom and let's have them keynote because we don't want the main host to get too much attention. There was always like let's build up the other people and use the wave of David and Brandon to try to build another career underneath them so that we don't have all of our eggs in one basket.
Yeah, dude. It was weird. And then I asked to MC every year. I asked 3 years in a row. That I do know. And they wouldn't do it. They're like, yeah, we're going to ask literally every other host that's not you. And I was like, I feel like, listen, all the hosts are great. They're my friends. I think I'd be a pretty good MC. I think you give me a microphone. I think I can hold a crowd pretty good. And I'm like, pretty funny. I could write jokes. I could do skits. It's like, there's like I was like, anything you want, I can do it. And they're like, yeah, sorry, we're really considering blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, that's fine. But it's like, what are you going to do? You can't, like, I liked my job. I didn't want to like ruffle too many feathers, but it was always that. Same thing with a book. I'd be like, hey, I want to write a book on, how to start a short-term rental business. And like, they never let me write a book.
That's probably what we were never told is some decision maker saw you as a threat to something else they had or another relationship that they valued more than you. And Maybe. It was probably similar to me, right? We don't know. It's speculation, but I would imagine Brandon leaving BP because he didn't own it, like you said, and starting his own thing sent shockwaves through the whole company. And it would make sense that they'd say, we can't let David do the same thing. So we need 6 other podcasts in addition to the main one so that none of these guys think that they have leverage over us, that we're bigger than they are. And
Maybe.
I don't know that that was a wise strategy, if I'm just being frank. I think you water it down. I think finding talent for a podcast is insanely hard. There are so many options of who to listen to on YouTube, who to listen to on Instagram, who to listen to on TikTok, that to get a person that is knowledgeable, easy to listen to, fun, has chemistry, professional, there's not a lot of people out there, just to be frank. It's very difficult to find
and that understand the format and they're with it and they know how to lead a conversation and how to make it short and how to end when you need to end. Like, there's so many little nuances to podcasting that's like, you can't just give anyone a mic.
But they did. They made a lot of people got mics and it hurt the brand, in my opinion. This is just my perspective. I think it watered it down a ton. It used to be one show that people would listen to with really good talent. And then you started like, well, we got these bench players. We can bring them in because we're going to have them play a game at the same time as the main players. And you're just diluting the quality that you've got over all of these different shows, and then your listeners start to fall, and then your advertising dollars start to fall, and now you got to lay off people, and then you lay off your most expensive people who are the best, and you sort of get into that spiral that I think they're into. And I don't know that would have happened if they would have focused on the quality instead of the quantity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that there's very good talent there. I think that the direction and the strategy leading the talent.
Are you talking about right now, or are you talking about for the whole period of time?
Well, I mean, like when we left. Like I have no.
I'm talking about the years preceding that.
Oh, got it. Yeah, because I have no ill will against the hosting network. They're all great. They're all good.
No,
people.
We're not talking about individual. I'm talking about putting 6 or 7 podcasts out when you had one.
Oh, I see. You're saying making a network of podcasts, which they've I mean, I don't think money is owned by BP anymore. The Invest Her podcast is gone.
The business podcast is gone.
They didn't even offer that. I thought they would offer Seeing Green as like, hey, you guys can go do this. They didn't even offer that.
That's my point, is they watered it down with all of that so fast. If you had taken time to find really good talent and put them into these shows that we just described and given them a chance to build up like a grassroots following and added people in maybe every couple years a new show, and you get really good talent, we'd probably still be there right now. The company would probably still be doing good. It was this rapid expansion out of fear that we don't want our talent to be too big that led to the downloads just collapsing. But you were making a point. I kind of cut you off. I didn't want to make it sound like I was throwing shade at any of our current people.
Correct. That's all I wanted. I didn't want them to listen to this and be like, wow, I can't believe they would say
No,
that.
not at all. Not the current people.
Friends.
I think if anything, the current people are the people that survived the cuts. So they're probably the better ones, if that makes sense.
The majority of them, Jimmy, Kathy, Tony, even Dave, honestly. Well, yeah, pretty much. But
we get along with them. We like them. I think they're all very knowledgeable.
People,
I think James
is
is like one of the best investors I've ever met in my life.
Great.
That dude is super, super talented. He's the real deal. Like, I would never say a negative thing about him. But they didn't throw James in.
Tony Robinson, that guy's that guy is
clearly changed his name to play on the Tony Robbins name.
Yeah, he just wanted to ride the coattails of Tony Robbins. Dude, get a freaking life, bro.
Yeah, and you've also had those podcasts have had several years to sort of establish themselves, and the players could be developed, the hosts could be developed. What I'm talking about is when they just said, we got one podcast, we're going to make 7 instead of 1.
Yeah,
and they're advertising those shows
down
on ours.
7 times.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that was also, I think, the other kind of grander mistake, and it's something that I think I see confirmed often online. I'm part of the original BiggerPockets Facebook group, so I don't know if it's my algorithm or what, but whenever someone types in you or me's name, it always comes up on my like newsfeed, you know? And I think that one of the bigger mistakes is that they thought that like On the Market was their fastest growing podcast. Maybe it still is, because it's real time, it's news, it's updates, doom and gloom often, you know? And because it was so successful, I think that they were like, hey, why don't we just take that talent and put that into BiggerPockets, and then that's going to also like feed into.
Do you want some tea about that I don't know if I've ever told you?
On air? Yeah. You're the one that never wants to talk about this stuff. I've been asking you to do this for a year.
I don't want to disparage anybody, but the person who burned me on this doesn't work there anymore, and didn't work there when you were there. He left before you were gone.
Okay.
When Brandon left, I said we should do what became On the Market. And it was my idea. It was actually inspired by the Patrick Bet-David show, that we take other people from BiggerPockets that they were not podcast hosts. It was like the guy from the forums that everybody knows that always talks, or the person who wrote a book that was really beloved. We bring in these like sort of second orbit players in BP onto a podcast. And I have like me and 4 people. And we go over the news every day, and I can ask the question to the appropriate person who's the expert in whatever that news article was like. So if it was about flipping, if it was about interest rates, if it was about the economy, we have Jay Scott, we have these different people, and I would play Patrick Bet-David's role, where I'd say, hey, you, Rob, tell me what you think about the fact that the Airbnb changes that are happening in the app and how they're going to charge people. And we wouldn't let everybody weigh in on everything, but it'd be an expert. Sure. I pitched this to the producer at the time to try to save BP from criticism when Brandon walked away. It's like, let's change up the format so people stop saying, where's Brandon? And they go, oh, this is interesting. I like this. He took that over my head, and they put Dave Meyer in the role that was supposed to be me. Started On the Market instead of making it part of the BiggerPockets podcast, cut me out of the entire thing, and did everything that I said that we should do without me in it. As part of that, we don't want David Green to have too much stuff. That person then got a raise and got put in charge of all of the podcasts. I've never said that publicly, and I don't mean it as like, oh, I'm super angry. I'm just saying that shows how little control that I actually had over the type of content that was being made.
That's a good way to round that out.
Yeah,
I've got some tea that I want to confront you about. Actually, you know, it's been a year and a half. If we're doing this, I may as well put it out there. You look nervous.
I am, but on the surface, I'm calm and steady to drop bombs.
Okay.
But I keep on forgetting.
So when we were getting let go, I was like, dude, let's just start our own podcast. And you're like, what would we call it? And I was like, getting real about estates. And then you were like, getting real, real talk, real estate. Yeah, I like it. And then you started a podcast called Real Talk, Real Estate, and you took my idea. How dare you?
I haven't slept a day since, man. My conscience
Good.
has ripped me apart. Getting real about estates.
I still think that's a great name.
How
Getting
long
real
did you
about
take
estates.
when I was talking, were you putting this together?
When you were telling me that story? Oh, yeah. No, I've been waiting for the proper moment to
Well,
bring
the
you
on the
down.
market thing, I can't be mad at anybody at BiggerPockets right now because there was one person that
they're all
threw me under
fired?
the bus. No, that's funny though. They're all gone now. Can't speak ill
All
of
of
the
them.
dead. No, because that person was let go, and I really believe that was the person that burned me. I don't think that it was like Dave or any of these people were like, "Ooh, let's get David Green out of it." I think he said, "Hey, I can make this good for me. I can get David Green out of the equation. This can start a whole bunch of more podcasts, and then I can sit as king over them," which is exactly what happened. When that person was let go, they were replaced by the person you mentioned that then became head of podcasts and kind of took control from us. So,
Right.
in
Which
a
I'm
way,
told
this is all
after
my
the fact-
fault.
Which I'm told after the fact, and this is why I feel better. Someone called me, one of the hosts, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can't believe so and so had it out for me." And they're like, "No." She's like, "I can't say too much, but she actually was on your side the whole time." And I was like, "I find that hard to believe, but
She was on
I'll
my
just
side
roll
about
with
what?
that." I think that the person you're talking about doesn't matter. Everyone's going to be bored about this. I think that they maybe had our back more than we thought.
Oh,
is kind
gotcha.
of how
Gotcha.
it was phrased.
Could be.
To me. But,
Yeah. I don't know that they ever threw me under the bus. The other person definitely did.
Oh yeah, the guy, right?
Person before her. Yeah.
Everyone at home's like, okay, if I go to LinkedIn and I type in BiggerPockets, I'll go and find all the people that work there, and I'll piece it together myself. Okay, so why don't we end here? Overall, I was really happy to do it. I had a great time. You and I became buds. I met a lot of cool people. It opened up really cool doors, and I wouldn't take it back. I would do it again. BP, we would do it again. I think, right? Maybe.
I probably wouldn't have picked you as my co-host.
Same. I was just trying to keep it nice and airy.
Well, I was going to say something nice. I'd pick someone uglier so that I look better.
That's
by
what I was
comparison
going to
to you.
also say that. See, you didn't let me finish, and that's on you.
That was our problem when we were hosting. Also, I never let you finish. I just talked right over the top of you every single time.
Oh, I gotta. I'm gonna let you finish.
You see how unprofessional he is? You see where he went? I hope none of you listening went to where Rob's mind went.
You've done that to me a few times this episode, and I've got to be like, we're gonna stick to the script, or else we're gonna get let go.
Brandon got sucked up into that transition. He brought me in to replace Josh. The podcast took off and did incredible, but it was never Brandon's company.
So I don't know. You know what? I like it. You know, maybe the world will see a on the market competitor one of these days. Maybe that's what we'll do.
You gonna make sure you get it in there?
Yes. We'll call it getting real about estates.
In the marketplace instead of
Getting real about estates in the marketplace. Well, thanks for hashing this out.
Let me ask you a question before we go.
Okay. All right.
What is the hardest thing about hosting a podcast, making content that you think no one understands?
Doing it digitally sucks. I mean, I know that that's like probably more tactical, but like if you and I had a podcast studio and we were sitting in front of each other and we were doing our thing with like guests and everything.
Like
I
when we
think it would
interviewed
take-
Alex Hormozy and Layla that
Yeah,
day.
for sure. I mean, I was like, I don't know. I was choking because it's hard to be.
You
in the
just
same
couldn't
room
stop
with that
staring at
hunk.
Alex's biceps.
I mean, they're large and in charge, might I ask. But yeah, I think doing it digitally is really hard. And so when we did these like in-person things, like we did it in Denver one time. Remember we interviewed Janice, my student. We interviewed Cody Sanchez in LA. We interviewed Tom Brady's coach. Like when it's in person like that, it is just like, bam. Because you can kind of warm people up. We had a couple of people that were nervous beforehand, and you kind of warm them up and you make them laugh, and you can do that kind of thing. And I think digitally, you just kind of turn on the mic and you just go. And I think it was really hard to shepherd people digitally. So I think the hard part is like understanding timing and like comedic timing digitally, because there was also like a little delay. So you would say something and that would make a joke, and then you would like
listen to it on a delay and kind of laugh, and then I would be like, oh, sorry, and we would always have to cut those moments out.
That can be very tricky. That's too. What would you like people to know about your heart that you think maybe not everybody understands?
Oh man, what do I be able to know about my heart? What a deep question. I wasn't ready for this.
It's like I just asked the Grinch.
I think like I really, I hate people. I love people. I think like what you see is what you get. I would say 10 out of 10, you meet me in person, it's like exactly what you would think it is. I've tried very hard to do that. But also like I don't fake it, but like if someone tells me that they're like, oh my gosh, BiggerPockets, like it happens decently still. At airports, happened to me yesterday. Like I will spend as much time as possible chatting with that person and asking them about their real estate journey. Cause, I don't know. I know what it's like to, meet someone and not, I met, Josh Weissman. He's a good buddy of mine, YouTuber. And this was at the height of BiggerPockets, and I was like, all right, I can go talk to him. Like I've met cool people before. And I remember I went up to him and I was like, hey, I'm Rob. I do YouTube as well. And he was just like, oh, what's up, man? Yeah, come on. And he was like so nice. And I remember being like, man, he really made that easy for me because like he just talked the whole time. So I always try to do that for people and make them feel better. I don't think that answers your heart question, but I think the heart question is I really like all people, even the haters. Because I actually think that every single hater that's ever said a bad thing about me on the internet, I think I could turn them in 5 minutes of talking to me.
You know what else is really hard about doing it digitally, to your point? When you're in front of somebody having a conversation, you pick up on a lot of nonverbal cues. Like right now, I don't know what your face is doing. I have to look at the camera. If I want to know what your face is doing, I have to do this to see, did you laugh at what I said? Do you like it? That's really tricky if you're trying to make eye contact with the camera and not know, like someone opens their mouth to talk and oh, they wanted to say something. In natural conversation, you can pick up on that and you can sort of lead them a little bit easier. When you're doing it on a screen and people don't know at what point they're supposed to answer, what they're supposed to say, nerves go so much higher and it's way harder to calm people down, to get them relaxed, to be able to get the right information to come out. And so
I will say though, like, the only thing that I don't like about in-person podcasts is that I have to wear pants. Because the one time that I didn't, the producer was like, "Hey, we got to talk to you." It was like a whole HR thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's the only thing I don't.
That's like. where you got the hammer logos from. Actually, people started talking about you that way.
So dumb. Trying to get me, man. Yeah, I want to yes and every single time you do that, but I'm not gonna. Because this is still a family channel. All right. Is there a part 2 of this that's going to happen on Spotify and iTunes?
Yes, there should be. You guys can check it out there. Or are you saying, are we going to do a sequel to this
conversation? Yeah, there's is there going to be a sequel, or are we just going to release this to?
No, we'll release this on Apple and Spotify, but we could always do another one. You guys got to let us know in the comments what we didn't talk about that you wanted to know, what you heard that you were like, ooh, I had no idea that was the case, and what you're curious about with the whole situation.
Yeah. Let us know your questions down below. We're pretty open. I mean, I've told people for 1.5 years. I don't hold back. If someone asks me, they're like, what happened? I'll be like, I think I was too expensive. And I think real estate made big companies broke.
You might have made them uncomfortable standing up sometimes on breaks without your pants on.
They were always like, sir, are you going to stand up or are you just going to sit down at the table this entire time while I'm standing next to you? And I'd always be like, oh yeah, it's my PR person said I can't stand up around people anymore.
Yeah, it's a bit of a liability for them. Mm-hmm. The insurance that they had to have for the editing process.
Yeah, I'm still working through all those lawsuits. Okay, this joke has ended. It's over.
Someone's gonna make a Donald Duck meme with your face on it. They're gonna put that out there.
No, is that where that joke even started from the very beginning?
Yeah, wow, that's good. You said I Mickey Mouse, you're Donald Duck, and this is a callback.
Wow, I thought we were just being funny. Look at me. And this is very common this always happened on BiggerPockets. You had these high level jokes, and I didn't get them, but I still went along.
I think you made it work, man. I thought you and I had good chemistry. I was very grateful to have you on there when I lost Brandon. we kept momentum
Seemed
going.
like he's gone.
Well, he is.
Awesome. I never recovered.
It was hard on me. We should have a
Still keep
show
up
where
with
I
the
just
family though.
lay down on a couch and you ask me questions of what it was like to lose Brandon and what that did to me, and then have all my ideas robbed and stolen and cut out of it. It was a whole terrible, terrible experience. But I'm still here. We're still making content. We're still helping people build wealth.
For sure. All right, man. Well, why don't you end us on? Why don't you do a famous Dave sign off, and then we'll call it a day.
This is David Green for Rob Donald Duck Abasolo signing off.
Definitely thought you were going to say the Donald Duck to my Mickey Mouse Abasolo.
Oh, well, maybe I should have let you do the sign off. It's not
Nah,
bad.
I know I always messed it up. So
Bye,
all
you
right,
pal.
everybody. Ho ho.